Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Better Events podcast. This is Mary Davidson, one of your co-hosts, and in today's episode, we are talking all about maternal and paternal leave and prepping for that as an event professional. So this is a conversation we've never had here on the podcast, so I'm excited to talk to you about it today. This is a solo episode with me and our friend Jessica. So Jessica's going to join us, and we're going to have a great discussion. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Better Events Podcast. This is Mary Davidson, one of your co-hosts. And in today's episode, we don't have Logan. She is off doing events and other things, but we do have another guest that's actually going to be joining us today. And I'm so excited for our conversation. So I would love to welcome Jessica Zimmerman to the conversation. She has been on the podcast before, actually, in the past. But today we're going to have a really fun discussion about prepping for paternal leave as an event professional. And so, Jessica, thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Excited for our conversation today. My name is Jessica Zimmerman, and I'm a client success manager for an event technology company called Rain Focus. So I have done pretty much my entire career has been in events ever since college. So my undergraduate degree is actually in tourism and hospitality, but with a minor in event planning. And just worked a series of different event jobs. I used to do a lot of community events for a chamber of commerce. Then I worked for a small municipality. And then I transitioned into corporate, working mostly logistics for the trade show floor. And then it was actually pre-COVID, transitioned into doing more virtual events and content capture, which is really exciting. And then since then, I've worked for a couple different event platforms. And so now I found one that I really love, been there for about 2.5 years. And it's been an amazing career and just a very, very specific events industry through and through. I forgot to mention, I also have a kind of side gig where I'm an adjunct lecturer for a university too. And that is also in event management and customer service. And so, yeah, all the things.
Jessica bleeds events, most certainly. But I love hearing your background. I mean, I know it, but it's not often that we talk to people who actually studied events. So many of us just get thrown into it. And not only did you study it, but you're teaching it, which I think is just a really fun angle to highlight that exists, because some people don't know that that's out there, and it is.
Yeah.
You can get official.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a great major. And it's been awesome because I get to meet so many people in my career that I get to do interviews with and then use that in my classes. That's something I'm really passionate about. So I love podcasts. I love linking to this sort of stuff in my curriculum too. So it's really great to be a part of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's awesome. Happy to be a resource for sure. So today we mentioned that we're talking about prepping for paternal or maternity leave. And so Jessica and I are going to be talking about maternity leave. That's what's applicable to us right now. And the fun thing is that actually, Jessica, I was thinking about this. So we met because our husbands were basically like best friends growing up. And then somehow we both ended up in events and just had a lot in common. And so we've been connected for a long time, and we've done a lot of random event endeavors together. Yeah. But then I don't remember the first time we actually met. Do you?
That's such a no, I don't really remember. And our mother-in-laws are friends too.
Yes.
And so I feel like my mother-in-law is always asking, how's Mary doing? And vice versa. But
destined to be. I can't remember.
I think when she told me about you, my mother-in-law, that is, I think you worked at the zoo and you were doing events for the zoo. It was before you started your business. And then we probably just saw each other at the beach doing something with our husbands skateboarding.
Yeah, it's very likely. I was bugged though, because I could not remember this moment in which we met, but it has been a fun journey. It's been many years now, which is awesome.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? Time flies.
Yeah. And the fun thing also about this and this conversation is that we are both due in the same month. And so it's just ironic. The irony continues. And so that's why we thought it'd be fun for us both to come on and have this discussion today. So if you're a listener and this is something that you're thinking about in the future, or maybe you've been through this and you can relate to it, we've never talked about this on the podcast before. So we're excited to have this discussion and kind of represent what we're doing to prepare as event professionals. And we're not experts, we're definitely figuring it out, but we're excited to have that conversation today. And so, Jessica, if you don't mind sharing, how far along were you in your pregnancy when you started thinking seriously about what you're actually going to be doing for your maternity leave?
Yeah. So my situation was kind of interesting. I was living in Texas at the time. I'm talking about it like it was a long time ago, but it wasn't. It was only a few months ago. It's really been so many changes. And when I found out I was pregnant, we just immediately made the decision that we wanted to move home as soon as possible. So I told my work like very early, and I really started thinking about what it was going to look like very, very early. So yeah, I guess I was 6 weeks when I found out. We told our family almost immediately. We put the motions in to start moving home, and we started renting out, trying to find a renter for our house because we didn't feel like we had time to sell it. So yeah, all of that went very, very fast. And then I updated my employer saying, "Hey, I'm going to switch states." And they were like, sounds wonderful. Great. We'll update your taxes and everything like that. And but I think I let them know that the reason that I was moving and my intentions to go on maternity leave at about 12 weeks. I waited until that mark. That felt like the safest to me. So yeah, that was kind of my timeline. I wanted to give them as much notice as possible personally. I think in corporate, I think it might be different if you're a business owner, but for me, I just wanted to help them plan. And also I think it kind of gives you maybe a level of job protection in some ways too, just to have everybody know. So that worked pretty well for me.
Yeah, and I think our perspectives are different because they're important and they're different because you just said you have that corporate background, you're employed full time for a company. So that does look a little bit different than me. I'm just like talking to myself, when does it
Yeah.
make sense? When am I going to start
Yeah.
making plans? Who's going to cover me? But at the same time, the coverage piece is what has really been stressing me out the most because as a business owner, truly, who is going to cover me? I
Yeah.
don't really have that type of coverage that I can access. Now, yes, there are, friends and colleagues who I know if I called, they would fill in any way that they possibly can. But I've been trying to figure this out. And to be honest, I still am not 100% sure like how it's going to pan out. But what I know is I started thinking about it in the new year. I kind of just delayed it on purpose because I wasn't ready to come to terms with what I was going to do.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I've given myself, I guess, a few months of prep and kind of enacting that plan. But long story short, I'm going to have one of our team members who has, leadership and business experience cover me for about a month where I'm like not looking at my emails and they are truly the main point of contact for the company. If there's issues, anything like that, it's going to go to them. The team is going to go to them. They're going to lead the team meetings. And so that's kind of the coverage that I am outlining. That's the part that felt a little hard to replace versus actually executing events. I can get people to execute events. It's the running the business side that's been a little complicated to figure out. So that's me. Jessica, do you know how people are covering you while you're gone?
I'm not sure. That's still a little bit up in the air. I guess I should back up too and say I think another reason why I wanted to tell my employer sooner was because I am not doing like air travel. And so we have a big event that's our customer event in January. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to that in person. And so wanted to give early notice of why that was and stuff like that. And so I waited until just about the time that we had that event before I started telling my clients because I was hoping to have more of a coverage plan in place. But it sounds like it's going to be more of kind of a team effort of like my manager and maybe another CSMs, not like a full backfill. So I just kind of waited until there was an impact to them and until I felt like I could kind of say, hey, this is I think what the coverage is going to be, so that they felt more supported like that. So and everybody was so nice about it and so happy. And then it was bittersweet that too, because I was very sad to miss our event in Salt Lake and see all my customers in person and my coworkers, but it was definitely what I needed to do for my own like health and well-being. So I was happy about it, even though I had really bad FOMO.
Yeah, for sure. And I love what you said though, that people have been really nice about it, because that's been my experience too. I was really worried about telling clients, or people are just, for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
I shared on here, as much as I want to have this abundance mindset, I have a scarcity mindset. I'm working on it. And so I'm like, if I tell people, they're never going to want to work with me again. Like, that is the thought that I've had. And people have just been so gracious and nice, and they get it. And so, yeah, I think if this resonates with anybody who's listening, that's one of the things I think that held me back. But most people are
Yeah.
understanding.
I think it's interesting. I'm 34, and so most people I work with have had kids for much longer than me. But it feels funny when you're doing it. You're kind of like scared, like what are people going to think? But most people like that you work with or your clients, right, are gonna have kids, and they're gonna be happy for you and be excited and stuff like that. I think just depends on who you're around. And but yeah, it's kind of funny. It seems like a bigger deal than it is, but it's it's life, right? Like it's a circle of life. So people are really
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And because we are, generally event professionals are considered some level of type A. I don't know, some of us are probably type B, but we really like to have things organized and planned. And I don't know about you, but the uncertainty drives me absolutely crazy because I want to know everything that's going on. And this is a very uncertain process, I would say. And so this is a cheesy question, but have you ever thought something along the lines of, oh my gosh, I need to be planning this leave more like an event? Like, I need to know all the details when things are happening, maybe even making a timeline. I don't know how crazy you are, Jessica. Tell
yeah.
me more about that.
No, I love that. It's so funny because I think I've been doing that without realizing. Like I've been, but there's only so much you can plan, right? So like I've been working on my birth plan, but I changed the name to just like birth preferences because everything is like, well, I'd like this if possible. If it's like there's so many things that can change. And so for me, it's about like I want to have as much information as possible. So I have listened to so many books about birth and parenting and like audiobooks and read a lot of books and just flooded my mind with a bunch of information and then kind of trying to put in the birth plan what feels best to me, what would be my preferences, but just knowing that we might just throw that whole thing out. Who knows? But yeah, I think that, and then also working with I have been trying to be very on top of working with the state to understand like how the paid family medical leave stuff works, because that can be kind of confusing. And so yeah, I think for me, and also right now with coverage of my work, I'm doing some stuff where I'm creating some. We use Notebook LM, and I'm starting to create these like notebooks that have a bunch of sources of information for people, so that whenever I do leave, I'm prepared to just be like, here's this document. You can ask the AI like what's going on with this client, and so it's ready whenever something may happen. Because there's also in Washington there is also some prenatal leave that a lot of people are eligible for too. Which depending on the risk of your pregnancy, you may go out up to 4 weeks before you even have the baby. So it's like, but it just depends on what's going on with you. So I think it's just it is like an event. You plan, something's gonna be different than your plan, and then but you have that stuff to go back on.
Yeah, and I think it's important to call out every state, is different, but we're lucky to be in Washington State when there's like a really solid paid family leave program. And
Yeah.
it's one of the only states, I think, right, that has it. I think there's maybe a few states.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it really was not a factor for us moving back to Washington at all. But I'm super glad that we moved back when we did, and then like told my employer and updated all my information, because then I started paying back into Washington paid family medical leave, and my eligibility for it and everything is all set, because like in Texas there was none. And so we went from having me being eligible for 12 weeks from my employer to I have 24 weeks now, and my husband gets 12 weeks. So somebody's going to be home with the baby for 9 months before it was only going to be 12 weeks. So it's just a world of difference. Not that anybody should like move states just for that reason, but it's definitely something to look into and think about, like what do I have in my state? Am I paying for it in my taxes? And like make sure that you go to your employer knowing your rights and what's, because they may not know. If you have a Washington-based employer, it's likely that they've had lots of people go on maternity or paternity leave and they know the situation. But like other companies that are in other states that don't have that program, and maybe you're their first person that they've had in a specific state, you really want to know like what you really want to know what you're eligible for so you can work with them.
Absolutely. And as a self-employed person, this is something that I've had to start paying into myself, like similar to when you're employed. Like I think it takes it out of your paycheck. But yeah, from the self-employed version, I have to go in and like submit my wages every quarter so that they know how much they can pay me out for paid FMLA. And so it's a whole thing that I had to like choose to do, you know? So that's another call out whatever state you're in. If you're a self-employed person, also go look at that too and see what the rules are. I think I don't remember now, but there was I had to be reporting it for a certain amount of time before I was able to use it. And I think that might be the case either way. But so look into it. If you're not sure, there might be some benefit there. And so we're kind of talking about dates and timelines and things like that. So are you building in a hard stop date or maybe just like a fade out plan? You mentioned you're prepping your doc, but what does that timing look like?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out, honestly. Like I just don't know. I think I would, in a perfect world, I'd like to just go out a little, maybe like a week or so before my due date or something. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm
You don't
curious
know
for
what a
your
baby
answer
sounds,
too.
so
Like you said, we're figuring it out. And that's the thing with parenthood, I think I'm realizing is like you can't control it. You have to just figure it out as you go.
which once again is so annoying from
Yeah.
people who like to plan. Yeah, that's definitely been the hardest part for me. But same, like, yeah, there is no hard stop date. I have kind of started to say after I think like March 15th, I'm trying not to I like take anything that's like really reliant upon me. I might
Mhm.
still like be involved in some things, but there are always things I can get out of, something like that. That makes me feel comfortable. Anything beyond that, I'm like, I don't know, because my due date's April 3rd. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. We don't have the answers for this one. Maybe we'll have
They have
more
their own
advice
plans.
after.
The
Yeah,
babies just have their own plans, right? Like early,
yeah.
late, whatever. So yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one.
And you said you're gonna take pretty much the full time that you can take.
Yeah, I will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah. It's
that's so
hard
annoying.
though because I think I'm gonna be I'm already, like I said, I already have FOMO of like not going to events and stuff like that. And also the season that we are both, being due in April is a really busy time for us. I'm sure very busy for you, like all of spring, right? And so I feel a little bit, I don't want to say bad, but I'm also just leaving a ton of work for somebody else to do in my absence. So that's a little bit, that's a little bit sad to me. But the way I think of it too is like, yeah, I was only in Texas for 3 years. So like I've been paying into this fund for other people to have babies and expand their family. And I'm so happy to be doing that. And now it's my turn. So I'm going to try and stay home as long as I can. And then, be very excited to go back to work after that, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. It's so interesting to hear because I this is where I'm like almost not jealous isn't the right word, but I'm like, okay, to be like a corporate employee sounds so nice in this instance because they are going to figure out how to cover you and do all
Yeah.
those things. And then as a self-employed person, this is where I don't know yet, so don't quote me on this. We'll have to see what happens in the next, month or so, but I feel like I'm gonna have to go back to work sooner than later, and then maybe I'll go back on leave in a little bit because you can take it, I think, in different increments.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it is my business. I can't leave it alone for so long, and that might look like small check-ins, or just seeing how things are going or keeping sales going. So I've been trying to figure that out and think about what that actually means. But I don't think I could go, much longer than a month without checking it out all. But I
Yeah.
am trying to make the boundary of 1 month, don't contact me. I really don't
Yeah.
care what's happening. But
Yeah.
after that, I'm gonna have to start checking in again. So it kind of
Oh, that's
sucks in a way,
amazing.
but also my business was my original baby, so I'm not mad about it either.
Yeah, and then maybe you can go to like a partial week thing where you're working 3 days a week or something, or you're, alternating time with your husband or with other family members for childcare and stuff like that. You'll just have to see what works for you, and that'll change probably different ages of your baby, right? Like so.
Yeah, for sure. We're in for a long journey of learning, I think, about what that looks like. But it's very exciting. So you talked a little bit before about how you've told clients and your teams that you were pregnant, that you're planning to go on leave. and we talked about how people have been really nice. So do you feel like these conversations have been easier than expected? And like, how did you tell them? Did you just bring it up when it was relevant? Did you like send them an email? I don't know about you, but I felt uncomfortable telling people at times.
Yeah, I felt uncomfortable sending an email. So I would wait until I had like an account check-in with a customer or some sort of meeting with one of the main stakeholders. Better to me, I kind of would prefer if it was a smaller group rather than like the entire team. So there's been some that have been kind of a phased approach where I've let like the main client stakeholder know, and then I'll pop into like another call later where there's more people and tell them. But yeah, just I'm fully remote. I would love to tell people in person. If I was in person with them, I probably would have done that. But yeah, just a lot of like quick calls and check-ins, and just letting them know I have a personal update, and then saying that I'm expecting my first baby sometime in April. So
I'm with you. I love just kind of dropping it and seeing what they say. For some people that I don't know very well when it's relevant. Like sometimes it's a vendor that reaches out and they're like, we want to meet and tell you about our service. And normally I'm like really down to have those conversations, especially if they're local. But I've been like, I'm going on maternity leave, so let's talk about this in the summer, or something like
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And that's when I love to say it. And I just drop of the hat, mention it. But for clients and stuff like that, I've really tried to hold off as long as I can. And again, it's because of that scarcity mindset. I'm worried that I'll lose business. And the reality is whether it's from freelance or just happenstance, but there have been, oof, I don't know. I think it's maybe 5 events that I've had to turn down because I am pregnant. And that sucks. That has been something really hard for me to reconcile with as a self-employed person. Um, and so that's been a little, I don't know, that's been like one of the hard parts, I guess, for me. And that's why I've perhaps felt uncomfortable telling people, and I've tried to hold off as long as possible. So it can look different for everybody. That's just been kind of my experience. Is there anything else for you that's been kind of like awkward or more uncomfortable than you anticipated?
I mean, really, it's been pretty good, but I have thought, I mean, to your point, I think no matter what kind of work you do, you are for a time, it's going to impact your work. You have to take some time off. I mean, I feel like I've been very lucky to have a very healthy pregnancy without being like sick or stuff like that. But I know a lot of people, their whole first trimester, they are having even a hard time working at all, even before the baby comes, right? So it is definitely a sacrifice that we make, and there's going to be a trade-off. And I think just being really like okay with that and knowing that that's going to happen, like even with me, and not necessarily losing business because I'm not a business owner, but I still feel like there's so much stuff that's happening without me. Like it was hard for me not to go to our event because there is so much learning and networking that I missed out on. We're growing a lot as a company. So what kind of manager positions and promotions would have been available to me? Not that there still be different things available when I come back, but it is still like you're gone for some time. So it's impactful to your career, which I think is it's just how it goes, and it's worth it, but it's a trade-off for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that made me think, I think early on in my pregnancy, I don't remember exactly when, but I had the longest event day of the year, and it was like an 18-hour day. And I was like, why the heck did I put myself in this situation? It was rough. It was rough. I'm not gonna lie. And I was super tired, like more than usual, just like physically and all the things.
Yeah.
But it made me think about what can I commit to, during this time. And so for you, do you feel like pregnancy changed the way that you thought about that you've been thinking about your workload, or maybe in the future, like the things that you might say yes to in regards to events?
Yeah, I have been. It's been a lot of I think if you're in a relationship, talking with your partner about like how you're going to balance that, right? Because like for example, my husband has been saying like he's so jazzed. He feels like having a baby has made him want to invest more time into his work and like really have a great career, and like, the things that come with that, like more money and stuff like that. And so it's like just understanding that balance, right? Because somebody needs to be home and somebody needs to like, so it has, I think, yeah, it just made me think, what do I want? What do I really want long term? Do I want to take on a lot of extra responsibilities? Do I want to travel more? Because I used to just be sign me up every single trip I'm going, and now I'm a little bit more I can see myself already becoming more selective about what that work travel will look like, and just making sure that I'm in a position that allows that. And I also just think it can't help but change your personality a little bit. Like I've just noticed, I don't know if you have too, but I am so much more confident and I think direct of a communicator than I was even like 6 months ago, because I'm just kind of like, I don't know, just cut through any of the clutter. And I'm just like, all right, what are we doing here? Let's go. Like, I'm very matter of fact now and very much like, let's get things going. Cause like I'm tired and I'm going to take a nap later, but I'm just, it's given me a sense of confidence. I don't know if it's just hormones or something, but yeah, I think overall it's been good for my work. There's a lot of stuff that I may have procrastinated on that now I'm not, because I'm just like, I'm ready to go. So let's get this wrapped up.
I totally know what you mean. I've been the same. People talk about nesting, but I feel like during this whole time, I've just been like, how many businesses can I start right now? Like, let's
Right.
just
Yeah.
do everything right now, which is not necessarily reasonable, but that's been a fun journey. And I was laughing when you're talking about travel because you are the person that introduced me, not well, more like sold me on the idea of solo travel. I still remember you were like, it's so empowering. You just need to go somewhere by yourself and do it. And then I think I took I like extended in DC after a work trip by myself, and it was awesome. And you were so it's really funny that we're having this conversation because yes, you and I have absolutely been the travel people, especially you. And that might look a little
I
bit
don't know. You
different.
might have me beat these last couple of years, and like you, especially with international, you've been all over. So I love it. That's what's great
Yeah.
about travel is it's like it's not a competition. Every single trip is awesome, and you can brag about it, and everyone's happy for you.
Yes.
You've been moving. I love it. Yeah, I took one last trip in November, and I was for my birthday, and I was like, I'm good. I'm not gonna do this anymore until. And now we're trying to figure out like, how much can we travel with baby, right? Like I don't know if I'm delusional, but right now I'm like, I want to plan a trip to Mexico. I want to do this and that. My husband Blake is like, I don't think we're gonna want to do that. I'm like, we'll see. But first, let's assume we're gonna want to do it. Like I see a lot of people traveling with their babies, and I know it's completely different and it's not easy all the time, but we can do it. I think we need to believe we can do it. So,
Yeah, it's gonna be too comfortable, I think, to like just always be at home. Like we need to keep challenging ourselves, even though it's gonna be a little hard. So we might eat our words later. We'll have to come back and report
yeah,
back and see if
we'll
we're
have
like,
to
yeah, we were
recap
crazy.
this. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
recap this. We'll do at the later part of the year. We'll have to do like, what did we learn in
What did we
the first
actually do?
6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our last question, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you feel like would be helpful to add kind of about your journey as you've been prepping for leave? And then also, I think a good thing that might be kind of fun to end on too is like, did becoming pregnant kind of change how you view your identity as an event professional? And
Mm,
how has that changed within the last few months or so?
that is such a good question. So I was thinking about that a lot yesterday. I care so deeply about my work and I love events. They can be very stressful and they can be very much like the sky is falling. This is an emergency, whatever. I think being pregnant has further like chilled me out to remind me we are not doctors. Nobody is dying. Like it is not life or death. As much as I care about it, I'll sometimes be involved in a conversation or something, troubleshooting an issue that I used to get more like kind of fired up about. And then I'll just be sitting there and I can like feel my baby kicking and I'm like, this is not this is important to me, right? My work is so important to me, but this is not the end of the world. Like it's okay. We're gonna do what we can today. We're gonna do our best. But there's just so many other things outside of our work that are really important, like our families that are growing. So it kind of puts things in perspective a little bit for me.
I love that. I really love your perspective. And I think that's a perspective that I'm still working on that I need. I think the identity has been the hardest part for me, for sure, because it's not just as an event pro, but it's as somebody who owns an event planning business. And so my identity has been deeply wrapped in that business. And I think it will continue to be that way. But I'm curious to see how it shifts a little bit over time. So I don't know how it's going to be, but I know that the identity crisis has been a little bit real. And so I have less of a learning there. So I appreciate hearing yours because it gives me hope maybe as I figure out what mine might turn into over time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I would just say too, one thing we haven't really talked about that I would say is advice, and not that I'm, you know, not that I know everything, but just that try to lean on your community. Like don't be afraid to ask people for help. We've chatted before about how people are super helpful giving you things that like giving you baby clothes and things like that. But it goes the same for work too. Most people have been in this position at some point in their life. They've been pregnant or they have kids. So they want to help. And it's when you ask somebody for help, you're also giving them a gift of the ability to help you too. So I think, don't think you have to do everything on your own. Even in your case, right? You do have what you can delegate and what you can, you can call people up for help. Do that, I think, as much as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have those people in your corner who you can just be like, I need your help, and they're going to be there. And that's amazing. So thank you, Jessica, for being here and sharing your journey. This is very exciting that we could do this together. So, yeah, thanks again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of our episode today. So, because you are with me and Logan's not here, I have your bonus tip as well. And our bonus tip, as you know, might be unrelated to the topic, which it is today, but it's about events. So, the tip is to have vendors make rate sheets for you. And so, we've started asking some vendors to do this lately, where they literally make like a PDF or some document that we can keep on our files so that the team can look at it at all times and kind of just know what the rates are, but also if they have any special pricing for us, since we work with them a lot of the time and can create that partnership. That's been super helpful as we're getting quotes for clients and we're just trying to make it a little bit more official. So that is my bonus tip for you today. And that brings us to the end of our episode. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can email us at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can connect with us directly on LinkedIn, Logan and I, and then Jessica as well. And you can let us know that you heard about us from the podcast so we know where you came from. And if you want more Better Events content, you can also join our private community on Substack. There are so many different ways to get involved, so we'd love to see you over there. And thank you so much for listening to another week. We will be back in your feeds again next Wednesday.